Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and we invite you as part of the Auto Show for 2017 for Family Day to join two astute car guys, Dave Redinger and Alan Gelman from Dave's Corner Garage, heard every weekend on Sirius XM Channel 167. We have a question and answer, so feel free to come not too close, but relatively close. If you have any questions for our panel, we will gladly take them. And let's just get on with the show. Here's Dave Redinger and Alan Gelman. Gents.
Okay, Al, hit it.
Here we go. Yeehaw!
Okay, we do that every Saturday morning on another program. And welcome to Sirius Radio. We have what's called a town hall. And in a town hall scenario, we have a bunch of experts back here who I happen to know personally for many, many years. Darren Bossons from Salem Tire, which is actually Dynamic Tire, right? Or is it Salem?
Yeah, but we sell Salem brands.
That's
so
right.
That's what we go with.
Michael from OMVIC, the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council. OMVIC is the regulator for the car business. And if you have any questions about buying or selling a car, these are the folks you should be talking to. Jim Matthews from Lease Busters. If you want to buy a car that's coming off lease, you want to lease to purchase or whatever, Jim's the guy you're going to talk to.
Exactly. He's going to have all the ins and outs that you need to know if you want to get a car.
Or if you want to get in and out of a car.
Exactly. That's
and
the other side.
Trevor Hutchison from Crown Body Maintenance. Got to thank Trevor. He's been with us, I think, 17 years now. We have been connected with Crown. It's
is Crown Body Maintenance. Is that what they call it?
I knew him when he went out for Halloween.
I'm thinking body maintenance. It's like a club, you know? We're going to get the muscles up. No, not that kind.
Jeff is joining us from Lant Insurance for Classic Car Insurance. Jeff, how are you this afternoon?
Great.
Good. And Norris McDonald, who from the Toronto Star. And the Toronto Star is actually the folks that bring us the show. And they have a fantastic exhibit downstairs. Norris, the cars...
Actually, it's just over here. We've got to say that we have an experimental Aston Martin Red Bull 001, which when it goes into production in 2019 is going to be the fastest production car on the planet.
And you should know it's about $3.3 million, right? Yeah, right.
And before we go any further, as fast as you may want to go and buy it, they're already sold out.
They're already sold out.
150 of them, they're gone.
What a business.
More
so,
than 150.
3.3 million, right?
3.5 million.
Well, the price went up.
That's right. Well, because of supply and demand, you know how it is.
You know, I'm sure people buy them as an investment and then resell them later. I'm sure there's a market for that.
You know, Dave, fitting with that, maybe we should talk to Jeff from Lant Insurance. Because if you have a $3.5 million car, you're going to need insurance for that, right?
That's right, and we can look after that.
And tell me, someone has an old car, a classic car, downstairs. You've got some legend cars there, muscle cars from the 70s and some older cars, the antiques. And you don't drive them all the time, so do you need full-time coverage?
No, our plan, that's why specialty insurance has been developed, so it takes into account that you're not driving your vehicles every day,
right?
12 months a year. You're driving it 6 months, and you may be driving three or four times a week. So our rates are prorated for that, taking that into account, and that's why they are about 45% less than regular car insurance.
Now, you have a display down at level 300.
On the 700 level.
700.
Yeah, right by the Cobble Beach display.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty neat display, by the way. Okay, we have we do have a bunch of questions that were emailed in to us from our listeners. This one is actually for Darren, and we're talking about your tires, which are made in China.
Yes, they are.
Right, but are Chinese tires more tire or less tire than what's available from other manufacturers?
Well, the one thing I want to disclose is we got to get away from country of origin, because really the majors are all manufacturing in China as well. So the quality is there. You've got good, bad, and ugly manufacturers in every country. So if you spot out the proper brands to China, and you'll have no problems.
So when you talk about the majors, I know like some of them manufacture in India, others manufacture in other parts of Asia. So that's common, isn't it, that the industry moves
Definitely. It's a global market now, right? So as you know, with Trump trying to keep everything in the U.S., that's because a lot of manufacturing has left the U.S.
So Michelin, Bridgestone, and all those brands that we all know really are not really made in North America.
They have North American facilities as well, but they also have offshore. So they're global manufacturers.
So how do you bring in a new brand into the marketplace when nobody's heard about it? I mean, Salem's been here for 10 years, and we're now starting to get some traction, but it's taken 10 years to do that.
Yeah, it definitely takes, as you know, it costs a lot of money. You got to market the product. You know, we've got salesmen on the road selling it to the dealers. It's a long process. It really comes down to how much money you want to spend.
Well, that's part of it too. I mean, it's a niche kind of market. So, for example, you know, so many people lease cars nowadays. So they're really only keeping them for 3, maybe 4 years. Well, at the end of 2 or 3 years, your tires are almost toast. You don't need to spend $200 on each tire. You could find something for considerably less that's going to get you through the warranty period, right?
And that's typically who our customer is. It's someone who keeps their car a little longer, or someone returning in for lease that wants an economical solution.
I was going to say earlier, though, you were talking about the quality. It's the Ministry of Transportation sets the standards that
DOT
these have to meet, correct?
Yep.
Correct, yeah. So any tire that is sold in Canada has to have a DOT, so it's all been inspected by the DOT, so there's no safety issues.
Love it. Let's talk to Mike. Mike's with OMVIC. OMVIC is the regulator for this industry. You have a project going on which is all in pricing. Can you explain that?
Yes, so in January of 2010, some new legislation was brought in which introduced the concept of all-in pricing for the purchase of a motor vehicle. So what that means is any mandatory fees have to be included in the sticker price. So you might recall back in the day, you'd see a car advertised for $20,000. You'd walk in, there'd be freight, PDI, admin fees. That $20,000 car might be a $30,000 car by the time you walk out. That's no longer the case. The only thing that can be excluded from that mandatory all-in price now is the HST as well as the licensing fees.
So if I walk into a dealership and the price in the newspaper was $19.95, I walk in with a $20,000 check and I would drive out with a car other than the plates.
Be $19.95 plus the plates plus the taxes. That's it.
Question, if somebody does run into somebody who's playing the game, how do they get around that, or how do they fix it?
Our recommendation is walk away. Do you really want to be doing business with that kind of an individual who's clearly breaking and flouting the legislation?
But so often, they'll say, well, it's an admin fee or it's something that's charged or this is standard. It's not.
It's not. That's if you're required to pay it, it has to be included in the all-in price. If they're trying to add something on, then it's not a mandatory fee, and you're able to waive and say, well, I'm not paying that.
Now, not all the ads in the paper are from dealerships. Some of them are from the manufacturer. So the manufacturer says, you can have an H car for $20,000. You get to the dealership, oh, we don't have any, but we got Y.
And that's the problem. We don't regulate the manufacturers. We've been pressuring the government very vociferously to try and get the manufacturers included, just for the sole purpose of advertising, so it's a much more level playing field.
Yeah.
And it causes our registrants no end of grief because it's not their advertisements, and consumers increasingly are aware that it's all in pricing.
So when someone's looking at an ad in the paper or online even, how do they know where it's from?
It can be difficult, frankly. Typically you'll see it'll be on behalf of a local, just to use an example, a GM dealer or Honda dealer, just to name a few.
So then it's a dealer ad.
And then it's clearly a dealer ad. But you'll also see on behalf of the GTA Hondas.
Yeah.
That's what we call a marketing ad, a local campaign that also is covered. When it's those global or online manufacturing ads, those are the ones that you have to be careful with.
So I guess at the end of the day, it's best to print it up and bring it with.
Absolutely print it. And my recommendation also would be to keep it. Sometimes you'll find that when you come into the dealership, well, I sold them car A, but I was advertising for car B as a way to try and get a way around it. Mm-hmm. I'd recommend keep that in your file with your contract. You never know down the line where that might be helpful.
Interesting. And there's always recourse if something's wrong in the contract. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So we offer free sort of complaint mediation, whereby if a consumer is unhappy with the transaction, they can contact us. We can't compel the dealer to do something, but definitely we have a lot of moral suasion that we can bring to bear. I always sort of remind people we had 1.2 million transactions in Ontario, resulted in about 1,000 complaints. So the vast majority go well. But in those complaints, we were able to return almost $1 million to consumers.
And I think we got to back up for a second, and the general public has to know that these rules only apply if you're buying from a registered dealer.
Yes.
That's right. So these are registrants only, and you'll see the OMVIC logo typically on the dealership. What you have to be wary about are what we call curbsiders, and these are people who are posing as private sellers. They'll say, lady driven, never driven in the winter perhaps.
I bought one of those.
They're in the business, and typically the concern is these are rollback vehicles or damaged vehicles, and they're not disclosing that In fact, they may not even be the owner on title. They've just skipped that, and they're just going to sell you
So
some
what
junk.
he's saying is, if you buy a car privately, you're on your own. If you buy a car from a registered dealer, you've got those folks as the backup.
And
So-
it does happen. I mean, people buy, like you say, people meet somebody at a donut shop. They buy a box of Timbits, a bunch of coffee, exactly. But you can buy a stolen car that way.
Or a half a car. Sometimes they cut the cars in half and we buy the front half.
You
and
told
the
me
back
it's
half
under
is
warranty.
free.
Well, the front half was, but not the back half. Yeah.
Jim
just got,
Matthews is with Lease Busters. Jim is actually a service that allows you to get rid of your lease, I guess, and purchase another car on lease.
Actually, there was one more point. So you got to make it.
It's all right. I was going to say the other additional service we offer on top of the complaint handling is we have a compensation fund. So if in fact the dealer turns out to be impecunious and you don't have they're not able to pay out,
Yes.
up to $45,000 we'll pay you back.
Which isn't a lot if you got an RV or something. $45,000 is really half an RV.
The average consumer though, 45 goes a long way.
No, but for the most part, I think you're talking about used cars in that respect. So a used car is not going to be quite
Applies
100.
new and or used. So it depends on the situation. If you buy from a registrant, they're not getting your money back. You can, in certain circumstances, you can come to the fund.
Yeah, but that does not mean you can buy a car from A, the next morning go back to B and buy a second car, and then go to the next dealer and buy a third car and hope you can cancel and get your money back. You end up owning 3 cars. So the bottom line is make sure that you know what you're buying before you sign. That's really where we're at, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Jim Matthews, you told me once, if you keep a car for more than 4 years, buy it. If you keep it for less than 4 years, lease it. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was actually 6 years.
Oh.
And the reason being
That was 2 years ago.
The reason being is if you want a car for 4 years or less, you should definitely be leasing the car. And in the end, if you look at all the pricing of all these new cars out here, they're all very expensive. The cheapest car you can see, new car you can see here is in and around $19,000-$20,000.
Right.
An average car today is around $30,000-$35,000. If a car is that much money,
Yeah.
and you want to trade it in and change it every 3 to 4 years, you're best to be leasing the car. You're essentially paying for the usage of the car. If you are happy to just drive a car for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then for sure you buy the car, you take the manufacturer's long-term financing, and their long-term financing is anywhere from 0 to 1%, and you take advantage of for the 6, 7, sometimes 8 years that they're allowing. What you must remember though is if you are financing that vehicle for that period of time, and let's say you get in an accident, well, all of a sudden the vehicle now has been depreciated as a result of the accident. So in other words, it won't have the same value at the end, and there could be long-term ramifications. If you were leasing that vehicle and it was repaired, you simply at the end of the lease give the vehicle back, and there's no harm and no depreciation ramifications.
So I just want to stop you. So that's the way it is.
That is the way it is.
Because I know for a fact that, so often now everybody goes to CarProof or Carfax and they look for a damage report. And the minute they see the damage report, they depreciate that much money, in other words, whatever the cost of the repair was, from the value of the car. And people get whacked a lot of times.
Yeah,
but you're saying if
it's 15-20%.
But if it's leased and
If
it's fixed
leased,
properly,
you don't get hurt.
Okay.
All I'm suggesting though is when you're making buying decisions, people often just look at the monthly payment as the buying decision, and I want to just own the car. Ooh, I want an asset. Well, if your house that you were buying for $500,000 was going to be worth $200,000 in 5 years, would you buy that house? No. So why are you buying a $40,000 car that's going to be worth $5,000 in 8 years?
So that's an important thing to look up. As a matter of fact, Subaru just won the award for best residual value.
Yep.
So residual value is an important thing to look at.
If you are buying with the intent of trading it in. Okay. If you're buying it and plan on keeping the car for 10 years, it doesn't matter what it's worth. Doesn't matter what its
worth
resale
nothing.
value.
But the residual value is going to reflect on the monthly as well, would it not?
Only on a lease, but that's only after 4 years.
Now, there is insurance you can buy for the damage of the car or the wear on the car.
Okay, there's 2 types of insurance.
Yes.
So the one that you're talking about is included, there's what it's called gap insurance.
Okay.
So that's included on all lease vehicles. And the gap insurance is if you write off the car during the term that you have the lease, that the that the insurance picks up the difference between what is owed and what the car is worth.
Okay.
If you own the car and are financing it, you should buy a gap insurance, or you have the option to buy it, because if you write off the car, you are still responsible for the difference between what is owed, even though there's no car left.
To the finance company.
Again,
the
another drawback against buying and taking long-term financing.
Okay.
So there's many different ways, but bottom line with Lease Busters, we offer a service that helps people get into and out of vehicle leases. And really, what that's all about is, if you don't want to lease a new car, you come to us and you take over an existing lease. If you want to lease a new car and you want to get out, you hire us to get out of that car.
And even if I want a car for a short term, I come to a company like to you, right?
Big area where it satisfies all different needs, less than 12 months, between 12 and 24 months. There's just all kinds of different areas where we satisfy.
Exactly, but people have to know you're not just renting the car. You are going on the hook. So
Yes.
you're going to be essentially like buying it and then financing
But
it.
you're off the hook when you sell the lease.
Correct. So once you have found someone to take over your lease, the whole process becomes very similar to a new car lease. It goes to a new car dealership. It goes through their financial services office. They do a credit application. It's approved by the leasing company. So once the original lessee signed off and the new lessee signed on, it becomes the full responsibility of the new lessee or the assignee. And one last thing, with respect to at the end of the lease, because most people get worried about, well, geez, at the end of the car lease, I'm worried I'm going to get nicked by the end of lease assessment, excess wear and tear. Most leases today are now being bought with excess wear and tear insurance, and that picks up between $2,500 to $5,000 worth of excess wear and tear damage. It's almost a must that you have that, just for the peace of mind. Now,
It doesn't take
So
much.
it's definitely a walkaway lease.
Well, it always is a walkaway.
Yeah.
But you got a perfect example, because $1,000 is eat up just for tires.
Yeah.
And you have a couple dents on the car.
Well, not if there's these
another
new
couple
Chinese
$1,000.
tires.
Well,
that
they don't
was-
allow
Have to be
it.
1,000.
Okay, we're going to talk to Trevor. Trevor is with Crown, an interesting company because it's body maintenance if you do it every year. Tell us, you are not actually a franchise, you're a co-op. So discuss your business model.
So we basically create our own large buying group, so where our dealers own the company. So it's very much, if you go into one of our Crown centers, is that you are not just dealing with the owner of that location, but he's invested in what the owner and the guy next to him does and the lady next to him does. So it really makes them more invested in the business.
Now you got to hear this. How many stores does Crown have in Canada, in the United States, and overseas?
Oh boy. We're
Lots.
just about 300 right now.
Yeah, 300 locations, 250 in Canada.
256 in Canada.
Yeah.
We've got 24 in the U.S. right now, and growing like a weed. And overseas, we have business partners, because the fact of the matter is that this has become a significantly bigger part of doing maintenance on a vehicle.
I just want to add a little bit here. Trevor, a lot of people were talking lease cars now. So tell us, is it something that they should still consider doing?
On a leased vehicle, there is a reason to do it, but like Jim said, if someone's going to lease a vehicle and their full intention is to turn the vehicle back in within that short time period, do not spend the money on that. If they've purchased the wear and tear protection, there's absolutely no added value that they're going to get.
I hope his boss isn't here, that wouldn't be the answer that I would expect.
So here's the reason you would do it. And I mean, I use Jim's service, and this is where I look at it, is that if I'm taking a vehicle that I'm leasing, if it's a company vehicle that's being leased for me and I'm going to buy it out, or I'm going to have a family member buy it out, then I absolutely would do that on the vehicle. But you've got to take a look, like our product is designed to help people that are spending enormous amounts of money, second largest to your house purchase on a vehicle. It's insane not to protect your vehicle and do regular maintenance.
Now, part of the process is drilling holes. All right, people get excited because we're drilling holes in your car, and the reason we're drilling holes is
you can't properly access the vehicle without doing it. And so we put a warranty that will supplement your manufacturer's warranty on it. We still get people that come in with BMWs or Jaguars that don't want to have any holes drilled, so we'll do everything we can to access it. We just can't put a warranty on it.
A lot of vehicles now have plastic panels or fiberglass or composite, or like the Ford's gone to aluminum. Do they still require the spray?
They do. Just each vehicle is different, though, and that's one of our biggest part of our technical services team is trying to be able to help them. Our dealers know there's over 1,350 different model types that are out in the road right now. So how do you know how to access these different ones? You know, vehicles that have aluminum have different corrosion issues. They're still corrode. Vehicles that are plastic or carbon fiber still have metal backing. So how do you protect that? And probably now the biggest issue that vehicles are seeing is electrical issues. Hybrids, and with the de-icing agents we use on the road, that's a massive impact on the vehicle, right? And so doing a little bit of maintenance on it for the cost is...
Love it. Okay, we're going to talk to Lant Insurance. Jeff, we're talking about classic cars, some of them worth, well, we're going to talk millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I've got a $1 million Ferrari, and I just whacked the nose on it. How does it work?
Well, with any of our cars that we insure, whether it's $10,000 or $1 million, you choose the shop. So you take it to where you've had work done before, or someone in your car club says, hey, take it there. These guys know how to look after these cars. So you're not forced into a shop that doesn't know anything about collector cars.
So if you're repairing that car, you supply original equipment parts to bring the car back to its original standards?
Yeah, as much as possible. There are the very rare cars where you have to get the parts manufactured again, but there are companies out there, mostly in the U.S., that do manufacture old stock parts.
Okay. But at the same time, there's a limit to what you're going to pay, right?
Up to the value that we've insured the vehicle to, yes.
So you have an agreed value, is that what happens?
It's an agreed, guaranteed value, yes, that we settle on when we start up the policy. The car's worth $1 million, we insure it for $1 million, and that's what you get if the car is a write-off or up to the amount for repairs.
If it's stolen or whatever.
Stolen, whatever, yeah.
So how does that work? An appraiser comes out, looks at your car, appraises it, you agree to a value, and that's the policy?
You can use an appraiser, but we now have access to a resource that covers all the auction prices across the U.S. and Canada, and what we're basing on is a market value, so that we're ensuring what the current market would hold this value. We check on the condition, we ask for pictures, things like that. So it's a little easier process than getting an appraisal, but certain cars do demand an appraisal, and certain people just like to have an appraisal done,
well, sure,
which is fine.
There can be such a big spread. I mean, somebody who has an old Mustang or an old Camaro thinks it's worth so much money when it may not be at all.
Right, yeah. So they're
but
not.
at the end of the day, if both the buyer and seller, or the owner and you agree on it, that's what you're getting.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not every car is a Barrett Jackson car.
Right.
So
exactly.
But
you
they
can
do
have
appreciate the cars become worth more money.
Some do, yes.
So does he come back to you every year or so for a
we check?
reassessment?
Yeah, we try to follow up every 2 to 3 years with the clients just to discuss it, or at any time. We're actually just putting on our website now an evaluator where they can just go in and play with themselves and call us if we want to talk about the value.
Quick question too is, what's the limit, or how much can someone drive that car?
Well, it's based on using it as a collector car. So you're not driving it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 to work. You're using it, at your leisure. You may be retired and you might drive it every day, but you're not using it as a grocery getter. You're not using it, to go run your errands and that. It's just out for pleasure drives and enjoying the car, but not used as a daily driver.
If the traffic copter catches you on the 401, you got a problem.
yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that zoomed right into our office.
Are there mileage limits?
Pardon?
Are there mileage limits?
No, there's mileage what we call guidelines that we know the cars are generally used, between 5,000 to 7,000 kilometers a year. If someone says they're using their car 12,000 kilometers a year, it's not an automatic no, but it's just what are you using it for? Are you traveling around to car shows in the U.S. all summer? Maybe you will put it on. So just a guideline so that we know it's not used as a daily vehicle.
Okay. Norris McDonald is here. I think you all know him from the Wheels section, wheels.ca. Norris gets the first page, always. But we should talk about Norris's job here at the show, and he set up that exhibit downstairs for 50 years of Grand Prix. All the racing cars they raced of the period, correct?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's one of the nice things about the Canadian International Auto Show. Look, I've been fortunate to go to auto shows all over the world: Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, New York, and any of you gentlemen have been to those shows. They are. They're magnificent auto shows, but that's what they are, auto shows. A huge showroom of automobiles.
Okay.
This year we're doing 50 years of Formula One. 2017 is the 50th anniversary of the first Formula One Grand Prix held here in Canada, which was won by Jack Brabham out at Mosport Park, just north of Bowmanville.
And these aren't pictures. This isn't a movie. These cars are actually here.
These cars are actually here. There is one down there, a 61 Cooper, that actually has never raced in Canada at the time it was in competition. It's been run in vintage events since. But the Wolf car that's down there won the 1977 Canadian Grand Prix at Mosport.
Schechter, I think, right?
Yep, Jody Schechter drove it, and in fact it was owned by a Canadian, Walter Wolf of Smithers, BC. We have a 1990 Ferrari that Nigel Mansell drove during the 1990 season. Mansell, of course, was known as the driver of primarily British marques, Lotus and Williams. He was in a Ferrari for that year. That car is here. One of Michael Schumacher's cars, a Benetton, is down there. And we have some films, old historic films, old historic pictures. I have to say, many of which I took, but we're not talking about my age at this point. But the most fascinating thing was, of course, Gilles Villeneuve, the great Canadian racing hero, father of Jacques, who won the World Championship in 1997. And by the way, that 1997 Williams is in this display. Williams sent it across, cost the auto show about $70,000 to do it, but that car is the car that Jacques Villeneuve drove to victory. But Gilles was always identified as being with Ferrari. And of course, that was the way it was. He was the fastest racing car driver of all time, and he drove the fastest racing cars of all time. And unfortunately died at Imola in 1982 as a result of a misunderstanding during qualifying with another driver. But unbeknownst until this auto show is that he started his racing career as a drag racer, racing Ford Mustangs back in 1970.
And there's one here, as a matter of fact.
I was going to say, and in fact, he had a Boss Mustang, 1971 Boss Mustang, in the garage of his house in Monte Carlo that he, contrary to some of the stuff that's been published, he had the contract with Ferrari. He had to be seen in nothing but Ferraris. So he kept this Ford Mustang in his garage and would go down between Grand Prix races and just fiddle with it. And that was how he entertained himself when he wasn't doing public relations or he wasn't testing for Ferrari. So it's a fabulous display. If anybody hasn't been down there, I really, suggest that you make it part of your stop. But again, it's all part and parcel of what makes the auto show here at the Metro Toronto Convention Center special.
Thank you, Norris. At that time, 1 out of 3 drivers would die in the season. They would have 5 or 6 people die during a season. It was that.
Oh well, it was a slaughter in those days because, of course, the safety restrictions now. Auto racing, surprisingly enough, is somewhat safe now as compared to the way it was. And
let me stop you. Yeah. Dave pointed out to me the Cooper was there, and you can see the cockpit, and the sides of the seat are gas tank.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, it's just all aluminum, just ready to get pierced.
That's right.
Fire.
Well, it was bad enough in Formula One. You can imagine the same type of car they used to run at Indianapolis. And if somebody got out of control and hit the wall, that was why they had the fires. And the two safety things that have really cut down on fatalities in big league motor racing have been the fuel bladder. So in other words, there's a rubberized container that stops them from exploding and burning. And the head and neck restraint system known as the Hans device, which protects the driver's head and neck from moving in case of a collision. And at one time, as Dr. Hugh Scully, who with Professor Sid Watkins is known for having advanced motorsport medicine so dramatically in the last 30 years, that's right, 6 or 7 a year could be killed in Formula One racing. Now, you really have to stop and think about the last time that there was a fatal accident.
Question, Norris. In In NASCAR, they've gone to safer barriers. They don't do that in Formula One, do they?
Well, Formula One is still a little bit of a gladiatorial pursuit, if you will.
I mean, they're looking for blood and guts?
Not necessarily, but this safer barrier costs so much money that it's relatively inexpensive to put it around a closed circuit like Indianapolis or Daytona, which is 2.5 miles. You go to Mosport out here, and you're talking about 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
You talk about the Nürburgring, which at one time was nearly 15 miles around. It's a lot shorter now, but it's significantly more expensive. And let's call a spade. I think the fact that it is a dangerous pursuit is one of the attractions of motor racing.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go back to reality. Darren,
Yes, sir.
we're talking about Salem tires and quality. You're one of the only manufacturers that offers a 30-day exchange and a road hazard warranty. I don't think anybody else does that.
Yep, no, not on every tire in the lineup, but most of them. So if you, within the first 25%, if you hit something or you get nail, the tire is irreparable, then we'll replace it free of charge.
Now, when you have a 30-day warranty, a 30-day exchange warranty, so you bought these tires, you didn't like them, you come back to you, what happens?
You just bring them back to the dealer that you purchased them from, and then they'll take them off and give you something comparable.
So you get a full credit, whatever tires you
Correct,
want to buy.
yes.
Is there any cost to the road hazard?
Nope, not for the consumer.
So there's no charge that way.
Nope, not at all.
Listen, I've run a set of those. We do a lot of what's called time attack. We have an old BMW which you beat the lips off, but we run a set of Salins on there for the entire season. And then Steve over here needed a car for the winter, so we gave him that car, and they're still got thread on.
You're too good to him.
Do you know what?
I know I am.
I just want to bring up a point here, too. Now, on so many vehicles, you're talking about 45, 50 series tires, which are more apt to cut. So we see way more of those damage. In the old days, there was room for the tire to absorb the impact, whether it's a pothole or a curb. We don't see that anymore. Somebody takes one of those tires and cuts it, your tire's gone.
Yeah, no, we call them accidental high performance customers because most people don't realize that you can buy some of the lower end vehicles now with 40, 45, 50 series tires, and like Alan said, if you hit a pothole with those, there's not much to forgive there.
Yeah, and also if you're looking at a car with low profile, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, the profile.
The ride is hard. It's not a soft ride. You have to have more rubber on the road to actually have a softer ride.
Yeah, but they look good.
They look good, and the performance is there. They're more you're more in tune with the road with those types of tires.
But you're absolutely right. So you make sure you want to test drive your car,
Yep.
no matter what you're buying here. Take it for a test drive. It's got to be comfortable, and you have to know that down the road when you want to change those tires, they also cost twice as much as the other ones.
Usually, yes.
You know, one thing I was going to say, if you're buying a car here, buy one that fits. All right? I've bought many cars where I just hate them because the seats aren't comfortable. I'm too far from the steering wheel. So I've learned, I take my wife with me. If she's happy, I'm happy.
Dave, they call it a bucket seat because you got to measure your bucket before you buy it, okay? Yeah. You got a bigger bucket. You need a bigger seat. Come on.
Okay, we got a question for Mike from Omvik. By the way, these are questions that we got on emails from Dave's Corner Garage Show. And it says, how do I get a hold of Omvik when I have a problem?
So we make ourselves available in a number of ways. We have a 1-800 number. We have a website which is readily accessible. Probably the best way would be through the website, and we'll have you hooked up with an individual complaint handler or registration clerk, usually within 24 hours.
Does it have to become serious, or can I just sort of phone and say, hey,
No,
I
it
got a
doesn't.
couple of questions, I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't. You're not committed. You can call just for some advice. We have a lot of self-help tools on the website as well, both to sort of look at before you decide to purchase a vehicle. I think a valid point was made earlier. Don't just look at the monthly payment. Look at the total cost of the vehicle, and we have some tools to help you purchase a vehicle. And then if things unusually don't work out, then we also have some tools available to help yourself.
Now, you have a part of that site is the dealer is named there. You can find if the dealer is actually registered. You can also find out if there's any actions going on against them or fines.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have sort of two parts to it. You can just look on the website to see if the dealer or the salesperson that you're dealing with is registered. We'll also indicate whether or not they have any complaint discipline or prosecutions against them, or you could look at that on the aggregate. We actually now have a website. We have the last 10 years of charges there, and this year we're going to complete that for our license appeal tribunal and discipline procedures as well.
And people need to know that just because it's a big flashy place doesn't necessarily mean that they're licensed. You guys had just recently where you're taking away a license from a big dealership and they were still selling cars.
It does happen, unfortunately. We got to work within the confines of the laws, and some people just are not as respectful, and it does take some time. We're dealing with a case right now with a curbsider. Actually spent about a year in jail. He's got another year to go. He's out on the appeal. It's 8 years running. So it takes time sometimes to get these guys out of the business.
And he's probably selling cars in between.
Well, we caught him once. We caught him twice. We caught him a third time. He spent the last year in prison, so I don't think he was selling too much from there. Yeah.
He's into snowmobiles now.
I hope so.
I think they have, but I think they allow them web access if in there in the library, though. They could be selling them that way.
You don't want to spend any time there. I don't care how nice it looks.
Jim from Leasebusters, here's a question for you. What are the charges for me to use your service?
Well, there's a couple of different charges that we levy on customers. Firstly, if you're looking to take over a lease, the charge is zero. So in other words, so people who are looking to take over, which basically are 90% of our visitors, and we have close to 200,000 people that visit leasebusters.com every month, and the majority of those people are actually buyers. They're people looking to lease a vehicle. Now, clearly, they're not all going to take over a lease. We don't have that much inventory.
Right.
So most of the people use our site as a research tool to find out what the true market value of certain vehicles and their leases are. If you're looking to get out of your lease, we charge a one-time fee of $295, and that fee is only levied once your vehicle has passed our assessment. So in other words, if your vehicle's pricing or your kilometers or the condition does not pass our requirements, we will not post the car. So with all due respect to the fine folks at Auto Trader who will post your car, and that's what they do, they're a classified portal. Leasebusters.com is not a classified used vehicle portal. We're an actual site. We're a marketplace of leased vehicles that are vetted and that are properly priced within the marketplace, and we ensure that there's full disclosure. Our OMVIC friend will like that part, that there's full disclosure in terms of what you're getting. If the vehicle's been hit, the lessee discloses it. And in fact, most of the manufacturers, leasing companies, will insist on a car-proof report, and often they'll run it themselves prior to approving the lease takeover. So everything's done really, really well in terms of that. But with respect to the cost, our $295 cost is a heck of a lot less than the difference is when you consider taking your vehicle back and asking the dealer who originally leased the vehicle what it would cost. And typically, the average pricing of that is between $8,000 and $10,000 to simply return your leased vehicle.
Wow, because you lose the depreciation.
Well, it's depreciation versus the contract value, because you're responsible to pay the difference between what is owed, because all a lease contract is a finance agreement with a balloon payment.
Yeah.
So it's the amount that's owed less what the car's wholesale value is, and typically it's $8,000 to $10,000.
Now, you started a new system called IPO, which is Virgin Cars.
Yeah. So IPO is through our Finance Busters property, and IPO is integrity pre-owned vehicles, and those are vehicles that have never been in an accident and are one-owner cars. So it's a little bit of a niche that we're starting for consumers to visit prior to looking at the bigger sites like Auto Trader or Wheels.ca or AutoCatch. And what it does is, and once it gains a little bit more popularity, it'll just be what we refer to as the first point of sale. The challenge that we're having, which is quite interesting, is that we're having a very difficult time engaging private sellers in listing their vehicles. And private sellers don't want to list their vehicles because it's very, very difficult in terms of showing the vehicle. There's accusations of curbsiding, and lots of people would prefer today just to buy from the new car dealer or an A-level used car operation. And I agree with that too. But we have there's still an area where we got to be able to help as well.
Okay. Next question is for Crown.
Okay, well, we've got someone in the audience who has a question for us. Just going to step over here. Your name, sir?
My name's Cal. Hi. Cal? Every fall I have my vehicle crown rust treated, and in midwinter, about February when the storms spell like this, and then late in the spring, I'll take the garden hose and I'll do the wheel wells. And I'll clean out all the sand and the grit that's caught in the crevices there. And I see the water as it's running down the driveway, it has a rainbow color to it. So that's the crown treatment in the water. Am I doing the right thing? Am I washing it all away?
You're absolutely doing the right thing.
Okay.
You should be cleaning the vehicle when you can. Here's the thing. This weather we're having today, we love. This is great winter weather. It's terrible from a corrosion point of view. We'd actually be better if we stayed at 10 below for the entire winter and we didn't have the heating and cooling. Inside, what type of vehicle you have?
It's an 09 Mustang.
Okay, so you got a Mustang. So you got a little bit of plastic inside the wheel, right?
And I actually get the hose between the plastic and the car itself.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So that's one of the challenges because the dirt, the sand, the salt all gets caught in there, right? So that is why you want to wash it out. The actual product that we use, although it's an oil base, the chemical inhibitors really designed to penetrate. So we're not, for instance, going to protect the plastic. We're trying to get into the seam in that.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do, and I'm going to help you out with this, is that I'm going to take your name down. I'm going to get you a can of our product we use, is that in the spring, once you clean it up, I'm just going to have you spray along the lip of that.
As a matter of fact, along that line, on the lip, on the inside of the rim there's a metal lip, and the grit will collect there, and I actually get a popsicle stick, and I collect it all out. So yes, I should get and recoat it.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you're absolutely doing the right thing. And if you can do that when you're looking in the winter, if you have access to clean your vehicle, absolutely do it. But definitely when you get to the spring, wash all that out because that's when corrosion's 70% more likely to occur once the temperature gets above about 10 degrees Celsius.
Just one more question. Everybody has it done in the fall, and I've listened to the radio program, and you're trying to promote the spring. I want to do it at the best time. One thing about the fall is you have advertisements, discounts, so I get it done in September. Yeah. When should I get it done, in the fall or the spring?
Tell the truth. Okay. So from an absolute maintenance point of view, the best time of year to do it's in the spring.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to know, and the reason is for what I just said is that most of the major fleet accounts we deal with do it in the spring, and the reason they do it is they want to clean up at the end of winter, see what damage is there, and get it treated. The fact is, if you do it once a year and you do it properly, you're going to protect your vehicle. But if you're looking for the best time of year, it's just most people look at, I want to protect it before I go into winter. But if they're looking from a corrosion point of view, the best time to do it's the spring. If you're looking at it from a value point of view, the best deal you're going to get is in the spring.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks very much, Trevor. Some great answers there, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you.
He's my only listener. From
Hope you lease a car.
One last question. You have a new system now, which is night driving, where we clean the windshields and do the headlights. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so we have a night vision package because one of the other real downsides to the de-icing agents that are being used on the road now is that you'll notice on your headlights that they will start to fog up even earlier. And what happens is they're actually getting etched by this material. The windshield as well can suffer from that. So what we came out with was a package, and we've partnered with 3M as well as with PPG to be able to deliver a process that will actually clean the actual headlights. And what it does is it removes the etching and it puts back on a clear coat that will give you, in some cases, you'll get 3-4 years extra life out of your headlights. And then for the windshield, we're putting a product on that actually has an oil base to it, but that will let the water bead up. But again, it's designed to help you, especially when you're driving at anywhere from 40 kilometers up, to have the water sheet off. And it really does, it protects the windshield wipers, but more importantly, it makes it much easier to see visibility-wise.
So you guys sell, there's a package that people
There's
can
a
buy?
package, yeah. The package goes for about $99. If you purchase the services separately, you'd be almost $150. But there's packages our shops will run in the springtime where if you're getting the rust protection done, you'll even get a better deal than that on it.
The question, a lot of people will try it on their own to do the headlight refinishing. Unless you know what you're doing, you can cause some damage.
Yeah.
They can buy that separate.
You know what the challenge is with the headlight, honestly, is you can sand the light, you can do the wet sanding, you can put the clear coat on. It's most people don't have a UV light to get it to dry properly. And if it doesn't cure properly, you've wasted your money. It'll turn out terribly. That really is the challenge.
Interesting. Question for Land Insurance, Jeff. Question is, how do we start the process for getting my car into an insurance plan?
You just give our office a call, or you can even go get a quick quote on our website. It takes about 15 seconds. You can apply online. We do it mostly over the phone. You can come in our office, but no, we don't necessarily have to come out and see the car. You send pictures in, and as soon as we have the pictures and everything sets itself up, we can usually do it same day.
What if the car doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Which has happened.
that has happened, and yeah,
Then you got to speak to OMVIC, and maybe they can fix it for you.
That's why the insurance companies have big fraud
No, but
departments.
what kind of safeguards do you have in place to ensure that the car does exist?
Well, one of the things that we ask for a copy of the ownership, pictures of the car, a picture of where the VIN is on the car to match the ownership. You can beat your brains out trying to cover it, but in the end, if someone's going to defraud you, and it has happened, again, that's why the insurance companies have large anti-fraud departments, and are catching more of these guys now. But
So the other question I had was, could I use your service as an appraisal service? Is the car worth insuring? For this much money, does that work?
We don't offer an appraisal service,
No.
but we do offer a resource for values as to
Yeah, because
how
I'm
much your
looking
car is
at
worth.
I say a 29 Model A.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
pristine condition, but he wants $50,000.
Right.
But you'll only insure it for 15. So where do I go?
Well, it depends on the car, because these cars are very unique. That one 67 Mustang may be worth 15, one might be worth 60. So it's really individualized as you know. But we are soon to have a widget on our website that will have the resource value where you can just go in and play around if you want and get an average market value for that car. And then it's a discussion after that with us. Tell us about your car.
Well, and that's the whole point, is at the end of the day, both parties have agreed on what the
Right.
value is.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you don't
can't just come up with a number afterwards.
Right.
We've agreed on paying it. That's why.
Now, another thing about your website is you tell us when all the car shows are out.
Exactly.
And all the what do you call them? Cruises and car
the
shows
cruise
and-
nights, and we have our event pages it's our most popular page on the website, and we're adding more and more each day. So this is the time of year we really.
Well, I was
bulk
checking it
up,
out, and
so-
the only thing on there is the car show.
Well, it's at this time of year because the cruise nights start in May, so we're a little bit early, but they'll be on there by the end of March.
Interesting. Norris, back to you. Quick question. The Star is actually the major sponsor of the show. So what are you doing here? What is the Star?
Well, I'm sitting here talking to you right now.
I meant the Star.
Right. And the Star, of course, is presenting the Aston Martin products. Newspapers get into promoting outside events for the very simple reason that the automotive sector is very important as far as the economic survival of not just the Toronto Star, but all the major newspapers in North America. And as far as the Star is concerned, our major advertisers are the automotive sector. And as editor of the Wheels section for a number of years, it's my job to not only try to present the best product possible every week that reflects favorably but fairly on the automotive industry, it's also part of my job to go around and participate in sit-downs like this and appear on radio. And I used to get onto television, but that was when I was about 10 years younger. I don't know why, but I'm not as welcome there as I used to be.
You have a display downstairs of those multi-million-dollar cars, the Bugattis and Ferrari.
I was going to say the Auto Exotica.
Yeah, that's what it's called, right?
Is also part and parcel tied in with the 50 years of Formula One Grand Prix racing. We should take you down there and have you do an estimate of all of those cars that are down there because it would be absolutely mind-blowing. But there are Bugattis down there are Ferraris down there. There's a Rolls-Royce down there that would just knock your eye out. And it's also added attraction as far as the Canadian International Auto Show is concerned. And it's well worth your while to go down there and take a look.
Well, exactly.
If you're a car fan.
And you've got electric cars down there as well, and people
Well,
can
they're not
drive them.
Well, there's one or two down there, but we kind of pretend that they're not there. Okay, they're over in the. They're over. Well, actually, though, however, we do have Electrical Alley at the car show this year. So that if anybody is curious about what it's like to drive an electric car, you can actually get in one and go a couple of 100 yards and feel. I've always suggest, people say, "What's it like to drive an electric car?" I say it's a really fancy go-kart. It's a really fancy golf cart. There are also other alternative fuel vehicles here. Toyota has got an absolutely fascinating hydrogen fuel cell car on display over here. So, at the end of the day, I know we're heading into an area that we hadn't really started to talk about, but as far as propulsion, I think at the end of the day, the internal combustion engine is still going to have a future. I think electricity is going to be important. I think fuel cells are going to be important. Yep. And frankly, there's something out there that they haven't found yet that I think also is going to become a player as we go forward. And they all, by the way, Dave, have advantages and they all have disadvantages.
Just one more question for you. When you're saying that we are presenting, does the Star actually pay for bringing all these cars in and organize it?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
So you should take more credit for that.
Well, I do have some help, Dave. I have to say that I was the lead hand, if you want to, on the Formula One exhibit this year because I know most of the people who have the cars, and as I say, I was able to provide a lot of the pictures. But there are people in our promotions department who work year-round on not just the auto show, but other shows of this type that the Star's involved in, the outdoor show and culture and arts and sports and recreation.
And do you know how your Ferrari leaks oil like a son of a gun?
Does it ever?
Old newspapers underneath. Perfect. The price is right.
Actually, I like
we'll
to
take
use
a picture, and better be nothing but the Star under there.
Well, the Star's not thick enough. You have to use another paper.
Please.
Okay, we're going to be closing off pretty soon. Final words from Salem Tire.
I just want to say, try our product out. We do have that 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll be definitely surprised.
And the website where you can get in touch with you?
SalemTire.ca.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
And I'm going to give an endorsement myself because I'm from Glen Allen Motors.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll get the line.
But at the same time, we've been selling Salens for a number of years, and the customers are really happy with them.
Yeah,
they do work.
I've got about 5 sets of them, and
no issues.
No problem at all.
They're on my car right now.
Mine too.
Mike, anything from Omvic? Final words?
Cars are great. It's fun to research them, but spend a little bit of time up front researching what you're going to pay, the financing, so save yourself some heartache down the lines. We have a lot of tools available, simple, sort of consumer-friendly tools to sort of help you cut through it on our website, which is omvic.on.ca.
I like on his website, it says the industry regulator, right?
That's right.
It should say buy in haste, repent in leisure.
We'll
Jim
talk about
Matthews.
that offline.
As you know, I'm a big believer in new cars, love the auto show, and to access any of these new cars, financially the best way is to lease it. And it's safe and it's easy and it's lots of fun.
You said to me once, if you lease a car for 10 years, you got 3 new cars in that period of time.
What I said was if you owned a car for 10 years and we're zero at the end, because really 10, 11-year-old cars were zero, well, really what you've done is lease the car for 120 months. In that time frame, you could have leased 3 or 4 new cars at not a whole lot more money.
Right, new technology, new warranty, new everything. Exactly. Trevor.
All right. So if you're buying a vehicle at this show and you're taking a look at how you're going to protect it, like we said to our friend from Ottawa, spring's the absolute best time of the year to do this. Go to our website at crown.com. All our spring specials will be out there. And also, there's a very good learning center there where you can find out information about getting educated about vehicle maintenance, what you should be doing, when to do it. And I'm a big fan of Glen Allen Motors too.
Well,
so.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we do used car evaluations for a good price. But having said that, let's say somebody finds a car on Jimmy's site that does exist. He keeps it till the lease is over and then wants to buy it back. Is it still good to do a used car?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's what I do is I buy vehicles off of Jim's site because, I mean, to me, that is the best way to use my money in buying a vehicle is that I take someone that's got into a lease and I look for someone that's probably an executive lease. They're short term. I buy it out. A lot of them will offer you a very good incentive to get out of their lease. And I tell you, for value for the dollar, it's one of the best things. And at that point, I'm doing it because I want to maintain the vehicle. It's definitely worth me putting the money into it.
Yeah, it's amazing how new cars drop in value in the first 18 months. They just, like a stone.
Well, they have to drop in value because if a brand new car is $30,000, and let's say that's a 2017 car, and you're in the market for, in that range, if you found a 2016 used car, well, what would you expect to pay? If you get a brand new one for 30,
after the bump off the curve,
no, but
35% less.
As per the market, what would you consider a good deal? Well, I'd consider if I get a new one for 30, I would pay probably $25,000 for a 1-year-old car. So once you then, when you back off a little bit of the profit for the dealer and so forth, so really the wholesale becomes $23,000. So brand new's 30, 1-year-old's 23. That's your first year depreciation. So who creates that? The market does.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, if I can get a brand new one for 30, I want to use one for 25.
And you avoid a lot of the taxes that are built into the sale.
Oh, for sure. Like taxes is just a
But again, as Jimmy said earlier, you are now you'll be the owner of the car. So you do want to make a check for condition, make sure it hasn't been in a big accident, and that all those services have been up to date.
Got it. Jeff, final words?
Lant Insurance, we were a collector car specialist for 39 years now. You check out our website at lantinsurance.ca.
And you're at all the auto shows?
We're at the auto show. We're in the 700 level. Come by and say hi.
Yeah, got it. Norris, Toronto Star.
Very quickly, the first 3 days of the auto show this year, 2017, have been record-setting days. What did I say, wrecking? Record-setting days. Saturday and Sunday was phenomenal. I think it has to do with the weather, but it puts the pressure on us because we're going to be back here 360 days from now, and we're already thinking how we're going to be able to present a show that's going to meet the challenge so we get more people even coming next year as it comes so far this year.
I love it.
It's been a pleasure to be here and great to be on your program.
Thank you.
And I want to say I've enjoyed reading you for many years as those stories.
The old Mutual Admiration Society is starting to kick in.
And
here.
I purposely didn't bring up.
Have we got another minute to fill?
I didn't want to bring up bicycle lanes.
Have I talked about Glen Allen Motors?
Have I talked about bicycle lanes?
No, you didn't mention bicycle lanes.
Sir?
Bike lanes.
I'm from London. Bike lanes are hot on our topic too. What about bike lanes?
Let's see what Norris has to say about that.
Bicycle.
I wrote it. The reason Alan brought this up is that the editor of Wheels, I went on record 3 weeks ago now. I actually did last summer, but it was one of those weekends where everybody was away and I didn't get much reaction. I firmly believe in bike lanes. I think that the bike lanes should be on every city and street in the province, and I'll tell you why. It's safer for the cyclists, but it's also safer for the motorists. Because I know where the cyclist is going to be, the cyclist knows where the motorist is going to be, and sure, every now and again we're going to have a misunderstanding, but it's going to be much better than the free-for-all that exists out there today.
I think the caveat there, too, is that the bicyclists have to understand that they're part of the road. They have to abide by the rules of the road as well.
You know, we can talk about variables and secondary subjects here, and that is very, very true. But it starts with education, with kids coming up, the proper way to ride a bicycle. It's probably going to take a generation for it to happen because right now there are a number of people who firmly believe that the bicycle is going to let them go whenever and wherever they want. And so we're going to but I really think the first thing to do is to establish those bike lanes, and at least then everybody will know where everybody else is going to be.
All right, thanks, Norris.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. This is going to be on Sirius XM channel 167 Saturday, next Saturday. And we'll be on our website, davescornergarage.com. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a great time at the show. Thank you.